Well, my brothers and sisters, on this, the second Sunday of Easter, which we also call Divine Mercy Sunday, I'd like to take just a little closer look at the events that are taking place in today's gospel. Now, out of fear, the disciples had locked the doors of the place where they were. Sound familiar? Well, Jesus, with great love and tender mercy, ignoring those locked doors, came into the place where they were, bringing with him his own peace to reside with them. Then he showed them in his own body the ugly scars of violence and hatred and destruction, which were now transformed into new signs of joy and peace and hope. He reminded them again to let peace reside within them. And finally, he breathed the Holy Spirit on them, revealing to them the consequences of forgiving or retaining the sins of others. And so, my friends, what does all this mean for you and for me today? Well, I've been praying about these things for the last week or so, and consequently, I was reminded of an experience that happened to me about 17 or 18 years ago now that really opened my eyes to just what today's gospel and readings reveal for us. Now, several years ago, one of the parishioners at St. Clare of Assisi was giving a presentation to the youth group during Life Night. Now, he was working as an undercover narcotics agent at the time, and he showed us a number of pictures of some of the most unfortunate men and women in all of Houston. There were criminals, homeless people, addicts, prostitutes, and there they were, up close, personal, and real. Then he said something that really opened my eyes. He said, "You know how we're always praying for each other? For the church, for the people we love, for our troops, for our first responders, and those who are sick, for all those who are dying. But what about people like these? Who do they have praying for them on a regular basis?" Then he gave us all holy cards that had the name and the age of one of those people that he deals with on the streets of Houston every day. Now, my card said Quincy, 30. Quincy, 30. And I placed it over the visor in my truck so that I'd be reminded to pray for Quincy every time I saw it. Then, consequently, I began to pray and ask the Lord to give me some signs of who else might need someone to pray for them. Well, you know the old saying, be careful what you pray for. Well, sometime after that, I was walking to my truck after work one day, and as I was opening the door, I noticed that someone had keyed the whole side of my truck, from the front fender to the back. Not just once, but twice. 2 marks all the way down the side of my truck. Well, to put it mildly, I wasn't a very happy camper at that point. I was really pretty hot. So as I was climbing into the truck, my mind was racing through all the reasons Why everybody in this whole world is so messed up. People just don't care anymore. Parents don't discipline their kids. Kids don't respect other people's property. And man, it's a good thing I didn't catch the jerk that did this to my truck. And on and on and on. Well, it was about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was glaring through the windshield right in my face. And I was still fuming. So I reached up and jerked the visor down. And guess what fell right into my lap? Well, you guessed it. Quincy 30. Then the thought occurred to me. Maybe the person who did this to my truck is in desperate need of someone to be praying for them right now. And so you see, God's great love and tender mercy ignored the locked doors of my heart that day, came into the lonely and isolated place where I was, and transformed those ugly scars on my truck into signs that still breathe peace, joy, and hope into my heart, and inspire me to this very day, nearly 2 decades later, to pray for the person who keyed my truck that day. Amazing. You see, sisters and brothers, in our gospel today, Jesus shows us that the boundless love and mercy of God's Spirit has the power to transform all the ugly scars created by violence, hatred, destruction, and even the scars that will be left by the wounds of this pandemic that we're going through right now. God's Spirit of love can transform all the scars in our lives into signs of joy, peace, and hope, no matter how senseless, ugly, violent, or fearful they may appear to us at first. Now, I believe that this next story will also help illustrate just what I mean here. There was a college student named Tom who was well liked by his peers. Nothing unusual here, except Tom had a large red birthmark that ran from one eye, down his face, across his mouth, and onto his chest. One day, a close friend of his asked Tom, "Tell me this, how did you ever overcome the emotional pain of having that birthmark?" "Oh," he answered quickly, "it's because of my dad. You see, he always told me, 'Son, this,'" he pointed to my birthmark, "this is where an angel kissed you," because he wanted to mark you out just for your dad. You're very special to me. And whenever we're in a group of people, I always know right where you are and that you're mine. My dad told me that so many times that I even began to feel sorry for all my friends who didn't have birthmarks. So what is God's message for you and me in today's gospel? You see, sisters and brothers, anger, resentment, vengeance, rage, these are all ways to camouflage our fears. We have a lot of that going around right now. Ways of attempting to protect ourselves from being wounded, or trying to keep the scars of our wounds from being seen by others. We're fearful of so many things. Afraid of being hurt, afraid of getting ill, afraid of being out of control, or of being ridiculed or made fun of. We're afraid that others may try to harm us or take something away from us that we feel belongs to us. And so, like the apostles in today's gospel, we lock the doors of our heart and even our homes nowadays to keep others out, to keep ourselves safe within. But Jesus' great love and tender mercy can come to us even when the doors of our hearts are closed and locked by fear, to bring us joy, peace, and new hope. And so you see, the birthmark on Tom's face, which he could have easily perceived as an ugly, senseless scar, causing him deep emotional pain, anger, or resentment, instead became for him a precious and a cherished sign and the mark of his Father's boundless love for him. And the key marks on my truck, well, marks which wounded me at first and triggered anger and resentment, discouragement, and even vengeance, were also transformed by the powerful presence of Jesus' divine mercy into potent signs of peace, compassion, and forgiveness that have been bringing God's love and mercy through me to someone that I've never even met for almost 20 years now. You see, you and I, like Thomas in our gospel today, have all kinds of doubts and fears. We've all been wounded, bruised, and scarred by the difficulties, the frustrations, and the hardships of life. Like the scars that are being formed right now. But if we, like the apostles and those people of faith described in our first reading today, if we devote ourselves to seeking God's will for our lives, Jesus will come to us, even if the doors of our heart are shut in fear. Jesus will come in, breathe the breath of God's Spirit of mercy on us, and transform our scars into precious signs that safeguard our faith, bringing you and me joy, peace, and new hope.